All right. Hello, home service pros. Welcome to the Battle Plan Marketing Podcast, episode number 128. Today, I am super honored to have an awesome special guest on the podcast who's an absolute legend in the home service industry, Mr. Tommy Mello, founder and owner of A1 Garage Door Service, some 32 locations, probably has more now, 22 states, doing 9 figures in annual revenues, some 700 plus employees, Amazon best-selling author of the book Home Service Millionaire. He's got a book out now called Elevate, which I thoroughly enjoyed to help business owners build a business where everyone wins. Also a host of the hugely popular podcast Home Service Expert, which brings on super skilled guests, share and teach a whole bunch. If you're not already subscribed, I highly recommend it. I've learned a ton there. Without further ado, welcome to the show, Tommy.
Hey, pleasure being here. Excited for today.
Super honored you'd spend some time with us little guys out in the field, man. You're awesome.
Well, I was the little guy in the field for a long time.
There you go. So for the 3 people in the universe, Tommy, who don't know who the hell you are, tell us a little bit about what you guys do, who you do it for, where you do it.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Michigan. Started shoveling snow and mowing lawns like most kids do in the Midwest. My mom was a realtor. My dad owned a transmission shop, so always had the entrepreneurial bug. Started washing dishes when I was 12.
Nice.
And I think I got paid $4.05 per hour under the table because you had to be 13 to work.
Right.
And what was nice, I always made my own money. It wasn't a lot of money back then, but it was, 1995, so things weren't very expensive. I could buy what I wanted, and on snow days, I'd go make pizza for my buddies and wings, and we'd play Golden Tee when it first came out. So still play Golden Tee. And when I was 16, I moved to Phoenix, graduated a year early, started a landscaping business because that's what I knew. I used to do water conservation analysis, sell pretty big accounts. And got that up to like 40, 50 grand a month, which was good in my early 20s. Nice. I was buying and selling Bowflexes, buying and selling cars, bartending. And then I had a buddy call me. He's like, listen, do you know how to paint garage doors? I said, no, but how much does it pay? He goes, I'll get you $100 a door. And it doesn't take that long to paint a garage door if you're good at it. So I learned how to paint garage doors. I was doing 10 a day. And in my early 20s, $1,000 on a Saturday wasn't a bad gig. Right. I had about $12 worth of paint and tape. So every time I met up with a technician, they'd give me the paint sample they cut out of the door, and they'd be killing it. They just said they love their job. So one of my buddies started being a tech at a company. He goes, check this business out. You know more about business than I do. And I loved it. So we started a business 2007, A1 Garage Door Specialist. Made every mistake in the book 3 years later. Found out that we were headed on different paths. So I said, either I'll buy you out or you could have the company. I'm going to start another one. And it wasn't an easy conversation, but he gave me the debt, basically. Changed the company to A1 Garage Door Service. My mom and stepdad moved out from Michigan to help. And like I said, went down a path of just learning, mistake after mistake. 16 years later, we're doing 20% bottom line.
Nice.
Tens and tens of millions of dollars, which is profit, real profit, EBITDA. And we recently partnered with a private equity company that I absolutely love and I'm fond of. At the end of December, I still retain half the company ownership. And I thought I was pretty smart till I found out these guys are way smarter.
Right.
I've got a kindergarten mentality when it comes to financial engineering. Now I'm getting like a PhD.
Right.
So I'm literally back in the learning seat, really figuring out a lot of things. And I used to think 15 to 20% was a great bottom line, but now I'm realizing we could do a lot better.
Really? Crazy. Nice story. So in your first book, Tommy, you talked about graduating college and being in big time debt when you started the debt biz, right? So how did you jump out of that?
Well, me and Gabe got ourselves into some debt. I didn't buy the business. I just took on all the debt. So it was a business and the ownership structure changed. So I took on about 50 grand, but it turns out to be a lot more than that. because he got sued by the Yellow Pages in 2014, and I had to spend another 80 grand on that, and I had to get lawyers, and it probably was more like $250,000 in debt.
Wow.
And back then, I mean, we're talking 13 years ago, it was a lot of money to have to pay off. We owed everybody money. But we also had a lot of stickers out there. We also had a lot of repeat business. So it was a great deal for me. And 2014, I met Adam Cronenberg, who ended up being an amazing guy. I mean, he did all the things I hated. He helped me organize the business, helped me with payroll, helped me handle HR matters, figured out a lot of things that I had no clue, and I didn't have any passion to do them. I like marketing, I like sales, and I like just pushing the gas forward. So we really figured out a way to make a ton of money, lots of revenue. We just didn't keep any of it for the next 5 years.
Wow.
I mean, even when I started the podcast, I was bringing in lots and lots of money. I kept telling myself, I'm investing back into the business. If I could go back and talk to 7 years ago, Tommy would say, dude, you're not making money. You're bringing in a lot of revenue, but you keep tricking your brain into thinking you're just reinvesting it all. And I will say that I didn't go out and live very lavishly. I was very frugal. I lived in an apartment complex we bought for several years, and I just didn't buy things that were depreciating. I did reinvest in the business, but that wasn't an excuse for not making a profit. And so, started really reading a lot. I hooked up with Al Levy and 7 Power Contractor, and he taught me soup to nuts how to build manuals, standard operating procedures, and checklists and create an expected outcome. And he says, Tommy, when I get done with you, everything's going to seem so vanilla. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, there's not going to be any issues. He goes, you're going to get bored because you like to stay busy, and it's going to become easy for you. He goes, so it did. It became very easy. And I was like, time to grow. And then a whole new set of challenges. Then it became vanilla. Then I said, time to grow. And finally, I learned what a financial quick check is from Alan Rohr. And finally, I learned about pricing right and coming up with really competitive wages that were performance pay. I got rid of tenure and the 1 year, time to do a one-on-one visit about your salary. Maybe you're getting an extra $1 an hour because you've been here a year.
Right.
Got rid of all that. And someone could come in here and do just as good as somebody that's been here 10 years now. And it's performance. You eat what you kill.
Nice.
And that's the way I live by now. And I'm on performance pay. Guess what? If we don't make a profit and we go, I don't make money, so I wanted everybody to have a stake in the output of what they do. So, I mean, there's so many lessons I could give you. Getting onto Service Time was a game changer because I didn't have a really good look at my KPIs. I didn't know what my booking rate was. I didn't understand conversion rate. I didn't even know what a service agreement was. I didn't realize people like financing because I thought financing was for poor people, but actually it's for rich people.
Right.
They like to take advantage of using other people's money. So my whole mindset shifted over the years. And I can tell you this, I'm a student for life. I'm still learning every day. And when I stop learning in the home service industry, it's probably time to move on. And I'll tell you this, today is Monday and I love Mondays. And if you hate Mondays, this might not be the right industry. Maybe you lost your passion. Maybe you forgot your why. Maybe you don't have a great enough vision. Maybe you don't dream big enough.
Mm.
But I think that's the biggest problem with most entrepreneurs I meet. They're like, I'll be happy if I do $1 million in revenue. Well, that's just a job at that point because maybe you're bringing in 15%. That's 150 grand. You go work for somebody else
Right.
at that rate.
Right. Awesome. So it sounds like those 3 guys, Adam, Al, and I'm sorry, I forgot the third guy's name. It really helped.
Well, Adam, Al, there's a lot of other people. Alan Rohr was, taught me a lot about the finances. And just the biggest mistake I made was I never got passionate, even though I learned about a balance sheet, income statement, P&L. I just wasn't passionate about it. And if I would have learned to be more passionate about what was in the bank, what we're keeping, what some of these numbers mean, like direct labor and variable costs versus there's so many things that I've learned just in the last 6 months. Mm-hmm. And when I got on the podcast, I think it was 2018 when I learned what arbitrage was, which is my favorite word in the English dictionary. I mean, arbitrage is like I buy something in one market for $1 and sell it in another market for $2. And I was like, dude, this seems like it seems illegal. How is this? This is like This is better than like Pablo Escobar. Like he grows whatever plants he was growing and then goes and sells them in a different market for a lot of value.
Right.
Well, you could do that in business too. You could buy a business for a lower multiple, fix a lot of it, and combined it's worth a lot more bigger multiple. So I could buy 5 businesses doing $1 million of EBITDA, get it to 10, and I could get 4 times what I paid for it. Not to mention that I doubled the business, but because there's certain levels, like 5 million is a good number of EBITDA, 20 million is a big number of EBITDA. And these multiples, because of COVID, because we were deemed essential and people were fixing their homes, and all of a sudden hotels weren't the right thing. Nail salons weren't the right thing. Movie theaters were a bad investment. Everything became a bad investment except for home service. And that's when the multiples took off.
I see.
And the reason I did the deal I did was because I have so much opportunity and the banks were not lending that it was an opportunity cost. I said, if I own half and I get 10X, it's better than 3Xing if I own 100.
Right.
And most people don't get that.
Right. Smart. So those guys helped you learn systems and training. Training, in your book, Elevate, you really start you the 5 pillars of a great business. Maybe touch on that. So it seemed like training was one of the first things that changed your business for you.
Well, leadership's a big deal. Showing up every day, being here, leading by example. Showing up is half the battle. A lot of guys that are 1/100th of my size, they stop coming to work. They start going to Disneyland, and they I'm going to live my best life, but they don't realize this is what gave them the life. But I'm passionate. I enjoy it. I don't feel like I go to work. So leadership, culture, marketing, recruiting, and systems. And when we're talking about training, we do personality profiling, background checks, drug tests. We do so many things to get the right individual. And everything changed one day when I realized what an A+ player could do for the business versus a B player. Recruiting people with a great mindset and attitude and a mind of abundance and people that want more out of life. Once you get these people, and I hear this all the time from entrepreneurs, I can't find great people. And I'm like, well, you put an ad on Craigslist for a week and your pay sucks.
Right.
Why would I work for you?
Right.
Like, why in the hell? Look at your ad compared to everybody else's. And plus, why are you going into the unemployment line to find great people? The great people already have a job.
Right.
So when you realize great people will move the business up in a way that the systems should find the people, but you got to have great people that smile, that look you in the eye, that can tell a great story, that want to win. You find those people, they'll run through mountains for you.
Yep. I like how you talked in the book about performance pay, dreaming big enough to fit their dreams into your dream. So that's performance pay, like you said just earlier. Somebody can come to work for you right now and make as much as somebody's been working for you, since you started. So talk about a little bit about how you structure performance pay kind of.
Well, a big advantage is knowing where you need to be. So when you figure out what I would do, and this is what I still do today, is I look at the last 3 months of payroll of any specific, whether it's dispatchers, CSR, technicians, installers. And then you say, listen, how do I inspire them to make the company more and pay them more to do so? And so what ended up happening with my CSRs when we came up with this pay 6 or 7 years ago is we were actually paying less than we paid hourly. And then once the CSRs caught on, all of a sudden, the performance pay was like 10% more, but we jumped 15% in our booking rate. And it was crazy, the numbers we've seen. We were like, holy crap, we need to do performance pay for everybody. And it puts them in the owner's chair of saying, so we built a calculator actually for our technicians. It's
wow.
calc.a1garagetools.com, and you can figure out how much you need to make, not this year, not this quarter, not this month, but this week and today.
Nice.
To hit your dreams, hit your goals. So what we do is if you're a really good business, you build a really good budget. You understand how many calls you need, what your booking rate needs to be, all these different things. Why don't we help teach individuals how to buy homes, multiple homes, and have rentals, and teach them how to go on their dream vacations and spend time with their loved ones, not just not just time, quality time. And very few white collar businesses are doing it, but very, if any, blue collar businesses are doing this because they say, I work so hard for this business, you work for me. Instead of saying, why don't I create the dream life for everybody? It's so much easier to get up in the morning knowing you're changing lives.
That's awesome.
And very few people have that mindset because we were always taught if you win, I lose. But what if everybody wins? What if our vendors get to win? What if we help them accomplish their 3 to 5 year goals? What if our partnerships win? What if every employee wins, which are my coworkers? And what if the customers win? And then what if I win? Why can't we all win? And no one's ever really asked that question. And I think it's something we need to look more into because I do believe everybody can win.
Man, I love that. So you're actually helping them figure out finances, home planning for buying a home, these kind of things, a little educational classes.
We had about 50 people in our Dream Manager program, and it was crazy. We just graduated everybody out of this program last week. And the hands that went up of homeownership in that 1 year was like 70% of the room.
Nice.
First house. And the only thing I think I failed at is we've got over 600 employees and only 50 got to participate. So I'm trying to build software behind it to make sure we could get we prescribe to the or subscribe to the Dave Ramsey program and help people become financially independent and really fiscally conservative. And it's a lot harder to do it on a macro scale than take a 50 people and do it. So it's something I want to share with everybody.
Still awesome.
And it takes a lot of work. It's a lot of extra work, but when people don't charge enough, there's high turnover because they can't pay their employees enough. Then they got to go retrain everybody, put recruiting ads, get new people. It costs them more for their revolving door than it costs me to pay somebody great what they're worth.
Yeah. I hear that. It starts with price. Was Al Rohr the husband of Ellen Rohr by any chance, who wrote that book, like How to Price Your Home Services or something like that?
So Ellen Rohr actually wrote the book. She wrote several books. How Much Should I Charge?
How Much Should I Charge?
Is an amazing book.
Yeah.
And Ellen Rohr, her husband was a plumber. I've never met him, but she's very big. And she was part of Clockwork back in the day with Jim Abrams. And she was also part of Zoom Drain, which she owns today. She also works with Howard Partridge and his group. And I get her probably once a year to come out and work with us and get on stage. But she just gets it. And she looks at a balance sheet, kind of like these guys that I'm partners with, is they could circle 10 things real quick and say, this number should be a little bit lower. Yeah. Let's look into what's going on here. And instead of getting mad or upset, I've had a lot of coaches in my life. I played a lot of sports. If they told me I need to work on something and they gave me tough love, I wasn't like, I don't like you. I just said, hey, listen, that's a great idea. Right. I want to be the best version of myself. I want to be able to compete. I want to play varsity. I want to, whatever it was. I didn't get mad when somebody helped me succeed or said, you got to get A's if you're going to play in this game. And they helped feed me when I was outside of the game. They made sure I got dinner every night because my mom and dad got a divorce. And that was a great coach. And I don't look at it as managers, owners, founders. I look at it as we're all great coaches working with these amazing people to live their best life. And it's amazing. Zig Ziglar once said, you can get anything you want in life if you help enough people get what they want. Yeah. And I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah, that's probably the best quote in the world right there. Yeah, it does start with pricing, right? So you got to get that pricing right. So like you said earlier, you can fit their dreams into yours, and and you can fit quality service and insurance and good trucks and good tools and everything required. If you're not pricing it right, you're in trouble.
Well, yeah, I'll just tell you real quick. I did this thing back in the day, like quite a while back, several years ago. A guy gave me an Excel sheet. And he said, put every expense you have, just put it fake ones to start out. And he showed me how much guys really work in the home because they got drive time. They got to meet up for meetings. They got inventory. They've got sick days. They've got holidays. They've got these different things that come up. So you do the math, and it was crazy the number that came out when you add in software, you add in air conditioning for your place, new trucks, wraps, good tools, good trainers, good recruiters, and you figure out everybody's pay is. And this was something that Ellen Ferguson gave me, that he's in Australia. So this was really old. They had pagers and yellow book on this sheet. And it still came out to like $550 an hour. Right. Because the problem that people don't understand is you're not paying for the part and the technician.
Right.
You're paying for the CSR, the dispatcher, the marketing. You're paying for the air conditioning to stay on. You're paying for the phone systems. You're paying for every time that truck breaks down. You got to have great tools. You got to have the best parts. You've got to have an accountant doing the work. You've got to have a videographer. All these things that you should have in a business. You know, pizza, I don't know what it costs for a little bit of flour and some marinara sauce and some cheese and pepperoni, but I'm guessing it's a couple bucks. But the pizza's delivered to me when I want it. There's somebody that drives it out. There's air conditioning in that building. The lights got to stay on. They're paying rent. So you're not necessarily paying for just the ingredients. You're paying for all the other things that come along with it. And I don't think it's easy to equate to food. Like, people know when they spend $30 on dinner that they could have probably made it for $7 to $10.
Right.
Or for some reason in home service, they're like, I could buy that thing on Amazon.
Right.
What do you mean you could buy it on Amazon? If you want to buy it on Amazon, the cheap part, then go buy it on Amazon and diagnose it yourself. And we're drug tests. We're background checks.
Right.
We got DMV records that we're running all the time. That cost money just to do those checks.
Yeah.
And I think, unfortunately, most people are just, you know, this shirt, they made this shirt for far less than they charged me for this shirt.
Right.
Because they're entitled to make a profit. And every business should make a profit. And money is not the root of all evil, by the way. The love of money is the root of all evil.
Right.
And people miss that.
Right.
But we're entitled to make 20%, just like any company's entitled to make a good percentage. Because that way people could take care of their families. That way it's a growing business. What good is the warranty that you bought from me if I don't have enough money to stay in business?
Yeah, good point.
Now, I'm not saying gouge people. I'm not saying take advantage of grandma. What I'm saying is be consistent, give people options. I don't sell people things they need. I sell people things they want, and I give them options. No one needed that Mercedes with the heaters and the seats and the moon roof and everything else. They have the alloy wheels. They chose that they wanted it. No one needs a brand new iPhone 14. They decided they want it. So why not give people not only what they need, but what they would like? Nobody needs overhead storage, but they might find it really, really great for their home to stay more organized. And it's something that if you offer it and they jump on it, there's nothing wrong with that. But a lot of people are like, oh, God, a used salesman. No. And, you know, these people, and a lot of it's on TikTok and Facebook and all these other Instagram, is they never really had a real job. They of course, they never ran a business.
Right.
And if they ran a business, it was e-commerce. They buy here and sell for a little bit more. And they say, this is the business I run. But until you've done it, you know, I never preach about being married. I'm not a marriage counselor because I've never done it. But to see people criticizing that have never done it, it's pretty pathetic. I
agree completely. Yeah. Hell, more than half the guys and women who own a business, you know, are not pricing it right. They're not taking, that was an awesome picture you just painted of all the things that go into running a business. And if you're not pricing those into your service, your product, you're heading down a bad path. And like you say, you're going to have turnover because you can't afford to pay people properly. And it just becomes a nightmare of a business for you financially and mentally, right? So it all starts with understanding, you know, what's involved in a business, man. And there's a lot to it.
Well, let me ask you this. Would you rather pay $400 for a repair or pay us $800 and have a warranty that we show up the same day when you know, I could almost guarantee you the companies charging $400 are going to be out there every 6 months for the next 3 years. So 400 times 6 is 2,400. You paid a third of it to fix it right the first time and us to look at everything. Do you want to go get your car looked at every other month? Or would you rather us look at everything, check your battery, make sure your hoses are good, show you the difference of a worn out part? You know, every 90,000 miles on a vehicle, they say replace this, and this. It might not have gone bad yet, but it's going to go bad. So they recommend it. And by not looking at these things, a lot of companies say, I don't do that. And they run 8 calls a day. They don't get to know the client and they brag about it. And they're barely holding on. Their employees barely make living wages and they're proud of it. They say, I'm taking care of my customer, even though they're not, because they got to go back there all the time.
Right.
And theyese people are not able to buy a house. They're not able to put their kids into school. They're not even able to buy a personal computer because they hold them down and they brag about it. So that what they say in their minds is I'm taking care of my clients, so I'm screwing my employees over.
Right.
They don't look at it that way, but that's really what's going on.
Yeah, 100%. My very first podcast was about a book my dad gave me when I graduated high school called Quality is Free. The author escapes me right now. But it was basically saying, hey, if you you provide the best service with the best people, and you've trained them the best you can. You're using the best products. You've covered everything A to Z completely. And up front, that might seem like the most expensive way to do business, but it is actually the least expensive way to do business. If you cut corners along the way, you're going to be going back. You're not going to get as much referrals. You're not going to get repeat business. You're not going to get the great reviews, so on and so forth. So, doing it, being all in is what it's all about to grow great business.
Well, my dad taught me really young when he had his transmission shop. He goes, Tommy, people want three things. They want it done on their schedule. They want it done quickly when it's convenient for them, usually same day. Number two is they want it done right with great warranty. They want to make sure you're using premium parts with a premium technician with a warranty you could back up. And the third thing is they want it for cheap. You could only pick two out of the three, he said, because you cannot do all three.
Right.
You could be the fastest and the cheapest, but you're going to have the crappiest warranty with the cheapest parts.
Right.
You could be the cheapest and the best quality, but you're going to be booked out 4 months because you're never going to be able to get there the same day.
Right.
You could pick two out of the three any which way you mix them, but there's no way possible you could be all three unless you figured out what Walmart figured out, which the Waltons are the richest family in the world,
Right.
of how to negotiate massive quantities of parts and buy things way cheaper. And basically what they do at Walmart is they don't only buy cheap parts. They've got contracts with their vendors that are really, really not great for the vendors. Yeah. And they employ handicapped people that work less than 30 hours so they don't have to give insurance. Yep. I mean, they've got every cheat code in the book. I'm not going to be like Walmart, right. Period. I'm not going to attract the client. I went to Walmart a year ago, last time I went there. And I had probably, the paper towels and toilet paper and a lot of the crap. There was only one line. They wanted us to do self-checkout. Like out of 50 lines, there was only one open. And the self-checkout thing takes forever and it doesn't work very well. And it's weighing it not exactly right. I get it, but I'm like, this is not great service. Right. I will pay more to go to a place. I would pay Trader Joe's to go in and help me shop and get the most nutritious, best quantity, most healthy, non-pesticide foods. And I think a lot of people feel like they'd pay more for something that's done right. There's another example. I'll pay more for a haircut that's done on my schedule, that they take their time. They give me a hot cloth. They give a shampoo. I'll pay an extra $10. Right. Yeah. Who cares?
Yeah, Walmart is the king of cheap. And, I don't know, some giant percentage of their people are on government, subsidies. So they're not a good model. That brings me to something in your book. You said time is value, right? How slow can I go? This is the opposite of a lot of business mentality out there, right? So touch on that a little bit. How you're showing value by taking your time in each place instead of rushing to the next customer.
Well, let me ask you this. When you go to the doctor, if they gave you 10 minutes to get in and out and they said, here's exactly what you need,
right?
Would you be happy, or would you be happier when a doctor sat down and said, listen, talk to me a little bit about how you're feeling. Talk to me about your stress levels. Tell me about your diet. Are you getting your cardio? How happy are you overall? Are you on any medications? And they actually treat you like a human being and get to know you a little bit and smile and have a conversation. Or they were like, boom, next. And then it didn't go right because they didn't ask you the right questions. Right. So diagnosing the person before the problem, that takes some time. Showing up and actually caring and looking them in the eyes and smiling and hearing their story. I sat with a World War II vet for 4 hours one day when I was in the field.
Nice.
And I called my next customer and said, I'm going to be running really late. I'm willing to do that because this guy's telling me the best stories I've ever heard.
Right.
And it means a lot to me to have that human interaction, that relationship.
Yeah.
And if you don't get those relationships, you don't create a raving fan. So by taking your time, slowing down, explaining what you're doing, giving them options, doing show and tell, you're actually creating a lifetime customer, a lifetime relationship. Yeah. And I think that takes time. I've never created I don't speed date with customers because there's no value given there.
Right.
So slowing down and just really listening to the person and finding out what's right for them. Of course, you're going to tell them what's going on with the garage door, but you got to give options. I mean, how do I know that you have rats if I don't talk to you if you got rats in the neighborhood, I'm going to install a bottom rubber with mesh in it that the rats can't chew through. Well, we never got the time to discuss these things, and I just fixed the small issue going on, and then you're calling me 2 months later. I've had so many clients call us, and they say, I've had the same company out 5 times in the last 18 months. Can you guys just come? I don't care what it costs. Can you fix it right? Because this is ridiculous, because they never had any training. They don't have any checks and balances. Right. They don't have any checklist. We've got a 151-point checklist to go through every single thing.
Wow.
The wiring, the back hang. I mean, we're looking at every detail. And we've got pictures to back it up to make sure that we did it. That creates accountability. And a lot of companies are like, we can never do that. Well, you'll never scale, period.
Got to get those systems to place. I remember in your book, in the foreword by Tom Howard, who was on our podcast a few weeks back, he said, you told him, oh man, what was the phrase? Scale it or nail it before you scale it.
Scale it. Nail it and scale it.
Got to get those systems down. So, Tommy, I got a couple of guys who are looking to grow, and I thought you were a perfect guest to help these guys out a little bit. So when you're acquiring, when you're growing, do you prefer to grow organically, open up a new place, or acquire a new place? Or acquire existing place, excuse me.
Yeah, so you're looking at greenfield growth, which is organic growth, and that means I'm scaling from 0 versus buying an existing company. And I'll tell you, there's got to be a good mix of both when you're at my size, because if I could buy a business of a baby boomer looking to leave, number one, the multiple is usually going to be 3 to 5. But usually there's a lot of things broken. They're not open nights. They're not open weekends. You look at their Google My Business page. It says close at 4 p.m. They don't understand service to sales. They don't understand a good warranty. They don't understand giving options. They don't answer the phones a lot of the time because they're booked. So if I'm able to buy something and fix some of the KPIs, key performance indicators, it's usually a great ROI. Now, there's a lot of work that goes into acquisitions.
Right.
It's way harder than greenfield because you're buying a company with a different culture. You're buying something, they carry different parts. They got different style trucks. So I've got a checklist in every department that's like 75 pages of everything we need to do. There's different comp structures. There's different insurance. There's different payroll systems. Some are biweekly. Some are weekly. There's some of them are a different whole entity. Some of them are LLC, S Corp, C Corp.
Right.
There's all these things that people call, I'm just going to buy. It's definitely not for the faint at heart.
Yeah.
It's not something I recommend until you own your own market. If you could have a tuck-in, meaning it's in your market, you're buying their phone number and getting a couple technicians and it's simple, that's the best place to start, because that way you could keep an eye on it and the culture actually molds into yours. But if you're buying something like 3 hours away, good luck, because we're challenged at doing this. It's not easy. People are like, I'm just going to buy 5 companies. Well, how are you going to get them on the same systems? How are you going to make them? What if they were getting a better insurance plan before? What's your plan on that? Like there's about 100 questions that I've been getting that are all written down. We made videos for these, but how do I ask for PTO? I'm the owner. I never had to work for somebody. If the owner stays on, good luck. And a lot of times we're buying a company, the owner's ready to ride off into the sunset. But people are like, I'm just going to do what Tommy does. I'm going to buy a bunch of businesses. Show me your plan. It's 2 pages. Mine's 150. And I'm still beginning. I mean, we make so many mistakes. I give you mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake that we've made. And we're learning from every single one. But that's the best thing is I love it. I love learning. I don't love making mistakes, but I know I'm going to get back up and not make the same mistake again, which few business owners can say. So I think next year it's going to become, this is a lifetime lesson for me of all these mistakes, that once I get good at it, that it's unlimited. Yeah. But the work that we do up front is several months before we're able to buy a business. We've got a plan of attack. We've got a Gantt chart. We've got to know all these things. We've got to know every bad review. We need to know how to take their old invoices and scan them in and put them into service time. We got to know how to reactivate their customer list. There's like so many things that people are like, what is he even talking about? And that's exactly why I don't recommend it until you get good at greenfielding and own your markets and go slow. Don't buy a big business because you're going to go, man, that didn't work out. Everybody quit and da-da-da-da-da. All of a sudden, what you paid a good amount of money for deteriorates. Unless You get a smoking deal, and the guy says, I'm willing to walk away for $100,000, and I'll give you my 20 customers a day. And for me, I look at stickers. How many past customers do you have coming in? I've got to look at what their booking rate is. I'm looking for a company that I can fix. I'm not looking to just buy a business that runs perfectly.
You want it to be broken a little bit.
A little bit. I just want to make sure that people are actually, they want to be there for the most part. My goal isn't to go in there and get rid of everybody. It's just, you're going to retrain. You're going to have to come to Phoenix for a month because you got to understand what we believe in. And if you got something better that you guys do better, we're going to adopt that company wide. And that happens a lot. They might have a system or something they're doing because they've been in the business longer than I have, and I'll take it and I'll use it. But it's definitely not easy to have two different, it's like hot and cold. It creates thunder, right, in the air. And you got to be very careful on how you go about that.
Crazy. Yeah, there's a lot involved. That sounds pretty scary, actually.
Well, I see all these businesses that are like, man, I need to learn how to buy businesses. I got to get as big as you. I greenfielded 25 markets before I bought a business.
Wow.
So, and I still think, I look at this company called Window Nation, where it's much cheaper to greenfield if you could figure out how to get in and take market share. And I would say if you could come up with a plan to greenfield and be successful in 2 years, it's better than buying that revenue the first year. Because you get to build it from scratch. You get to make it your way. You get to bring in all your own people that teach learn your systems.
Yeah. How far? So when you did that first, Tommy, how far out was your location number 2 then?
The greenfield or the acquisitions?
Starting organically. Building your own.
So I went to Phoenix.
What do you call it? I'm sorry, greenfield.
Greenfield growth.
Refield.
Greenfield. So I went from Phoenix to Tucson, 2 hours away. And then I did something kind of unprecedented. Whatever that word is. I went to Milwaukee because my sister lives in Milwaukee, my only sibling. And I was there a lot. And my brother-in-law's youngest brother, he was going to run the market, and he did amazing. And I learned so much because we communicated every day. And listen, what was it? 8 years ago, he started that market, and it's only a fourth of Phoenix. So and he's a regional manager now. And we're still, he's staying at my house this week. He was at the house last week. He lives in Milwaukee. We're best of friends. But then I went to Vegas, and we're a lot of places right now, but the private equity company said, you got a lot of popsicle stands everywhere. You need to make a deep impact in the market you're in. So right now, our focus is to take market share. Why would I want to do, Phoenix will do almost 50 million this year. Why would I want to do a bunch of markets at 3 million? Why not get a bunch of businesses doing 20, 30 million and pick the markets that could actually handle that kind of growth and look at the competitive landscape and really say, look, I only need 3 markets doing 30 million to hit $90 million. At 20%, that's 18 million. If you were just to get a 10 times multiple, that's $180 million. So people say, listen, I want to go to the next market. You didn't even scrape the market share in your own backyard.
Awesome.
And that's one thing I learned from Parker and Sons, my buddy Josh Kelly. I mean, they're going to do 260 million in Phoenix, HVAC, plumbing, electrical here. I mean, in one market. So the answer isn't spread yourself thin in a bunch of markets. It's take market share wherever you go and have a purpose, have a drive, have an outcome. Don't just go there without a plan and say, listen, I'm just going to start here and plant some seeds like I did. That was a mistake. And I'm a big enough man to look at you right now and say, I effed up. It wasn't the best play. It wasn't the best thing I could have done. If I could talk to myself 10 years ago, I mean, that would be a long conversation.
So if you're in it's target a big market, right? And then B, maybe you open 1 or 2 or additional locations in the market you're in, or first and foremost, scaling the one you're operating now, right? Nail it before you scale it, like you said. And then maybe if your market is big, you put one or two locations on the outskirts of those markets to cover the whole
Yeah, you
entire
can do
market.
that. I mean, look, at the end of the day, let's look at this. If you can't do it when you're present and you're there
Right.
and you've got relationships, your kid's soccer league, everybody knows who you are, and you can't take a meaningful, large amount of market share, which is 10% is massive. 1 out of every 10 jobs comes to your company for a home service. That's nuts.
Yeah.
But if you can't take a meaningful, large share of that market, what makes you think that going 2, 3, 5 hours away is going to be any easier?
Right.
You have nobody that knows you there. You have no way of recruiting. You've got all these friends, family, neighbors, of people that'll help you recruit, that'll bring you work, that'll introduce you to people. If you can't make it in your own backyard, what in the God's green earth are you doing looking to expand this nightmare that you have? Oh man, we're not making it in my own home city. I need to go to other What? It's foolish.
That's crazy.
It's mind-numbing to think I really suck in my own market, so I'm going to go suck somewhere else even worse.
Right. Get it great. Let's talk about you were talking about when you're getting that booking rate, getting those closing rates, dialed in, and that's really those are the key KPIs, right? Your lead to booking rate, your booking rate to closing rate. So and it varies, of course, by industry, but in the home service industry, it's got to be pretty close to the same, whether it's plumbing, electrical, or garage door, right? So talk to me about what's the target? What's a great booking rate and a great closing rate from there?
Well, one of my good friends, she works with hundreds and hundreds of call centers. Her name is Susie Boyder. She's with CallCap, and she said the average booking rate for home service is 45%. Now mine's 87%,
Whoa.
so nearly double.
Wow.
And that's how you're going to get the most money back but here's one thing to keep an eye on is a lot of people have excused calls. Well, that was out of service. That call was a parts call. That guy wasn't really serious. And so they got this gray area that it's not getting reported correctly. So they're like, I'm at 70%. But when you really dig into those non-opportunities, there is a lot of opportunities. And let's just say it is out of service area. Why in the hell are you getting so many calls out of? See, the CSR says, I don't want to get in trouble by I can't book this call. We don't even serve this area. Well, if you reported that to marketing to figure out why you're getting calls in another area, and it happens to be a lot with attribution models, but a good booking rate should be 85, 90%. I mean, we don't charge anything to go out and do an estimate on a new door.
Nice.
So I think free. I see all these guys charging $150 service call. The smartest companies I know don't charge a lot to go look at it.
Right.
And I'll say something like, what are your cross streets? They'll give me their cross streets. I'll go, I got a guy out there today between 4 and 6. Why don't I just have him stop by? He'll take a look at what's going on. He's got the parts on the truck. If everything makes sense and you like what he has to say, he can do the work right there. If not, send him on his way.
Boom.
So book the call. That's the biggest thing I see failing in most companies. And then conversion rate. Wait a minute. Somebody saw your advertisement. Your cars are running. They're full of gas. A guy showed up. He showed up to your house. You've got a problem and you didn't earn their business. You should be at 90% conversion rate on service, right? There's a demand service there. You should be 60% or more on conversion rate when they need something new. And this is why options matter, because if you're not giving options, you're giving ultimatums.
Right.
You got to have, I don't say this is the least expensive or the cheapest. This is the most economical. Here's our economical solution. And then we'll have something mid-range. Then we'll have something at the top of the line. And if you should have 5 or 6 options, because you'll always find yourself at number 4, which is way more than number 1, 2, or 3. Makes you more money. The customer's happier that you gave them options and you listen to them. So that's for a conversion rate. Booking rate we went over. Average ticket's going to vary. And then your cost per acquisition, if you don't understand that number, you don't understand how much fuel to put in the tank. If I've got a $10 million budget, I need to figure out how many calls I need to hit that $10 million, because then you're just feeding gas to the machine saying, if I put a little bit more gas in, I'll hit 10 million. But if those other numbers aren't right, raising your prices won't help you. I'm just going to charge more because I don't answer my calls nights or weekends. Bullshit.
Right.
You should be making sure all those other numbers are right before you're going to touch your pricing. because you raise your prices knowing everything else is 100%, not to take advantage of your clients.
Right.
I'm not in the business of taking advantage of people. I'm in the advantage of giving them the best experience with the best parts, with the best technicians, with the best vehicles in the industry, period.
And good, better, best options. Let them choose. You're not forcing something on them.
Well, you say good, better, best. I say best, better, good. I start out with the best option for that person that makes sense to them.
I like it.
And when I started going best, better, good, it changed everything. Because none of my guys were able to, they go good, better, best, and they'd always sell good because that's the first thing that came out of their mouth.
Mm-hmm.
But if I said, based on your situation, you're staying in the home for 10 years, what I would do if you were my mother, which I love and is the most kind lady, that's the most important person in my life, this is what I would do. This is the best option for her.
I like it.
Oh, that doesn't make sense. That's expensive. It's not in your budget. Well, I've got a better, good, better. I got the mid tier. Oh, it still sounds like it's, I want to get other options. I just don't have the money. Well, that's when you talk about our promotions, which is financing. But the last one is, wait, we could do this very economically for you. It doesn't come with as great a warranty, but it sounds like it'll suffice your needs today. And you're not a quick talker. You're not trying to pull one over on them. You're just giving them options.
I like it.
All you got to do, you don't have to be a professional salesperson. You just need to be considerate and look people in the eyes and make sure they believe in what you're saying, because hopefully you're an honest, moral, high ground standards, and you believe in what you're discussing. Because if you're the professional, if I met Tiger Woods and he was giving me golf tips, I would listen.
Right. Yeah. If you're well trained, you know your product, you know your service. And you're asking questions, right? So I imagine you're teaching you guys out there asking questions. What are their desires? Like you said, not just their needs, it's their wants, right? What do they want? And don't sell.
A lot of people miss that.
Don't sell based on your own, like you're the buyer.
Your own pocket. What's a lot of money to you? Let me ask you. What would be, man? That's a lot of money. What's the number
for what?
Anything.
Oh,
just what do you
million.
say, man? That's a lot of money.
10 million.
10 million. Well, a lot of my technicians say $5,000. So what I'm trying to prove here is if you go in a room of 1,000 people and ask them what a lot of money is for something, you said $10 million. That's a shit ton of money. But a lot of money for some person is $300. Another guy's $10,000. Another guy's 10 million. And if I talk to Elon Musk, he'd go 40 billion for Twitter. So
Right.
It's all in the perception of the person you're dealing with. To invoke our ideas and our buying decisions on what we have is a mistake, because our clients, I don't know who's buying Ferraris and Lambos. I'm not. But someone says this is a good investment and this is what I want.
Right.
Ara Madessian, the founder and CEO of ServiceTitan, him and Vahe founded it. He had this guy come to his house. He figured out the unit he wanted, right? It was this 5-ton. It did all these things, variable speeds. It has air purification. And the technician, he called one of the big clients that he worked with. And the technician shows up here. Ara shows him like a brochure on it and says, look, this is the unit I'd like to get. And the guy goes, no, you don't want that unit. He didn't say, could you give me a few reasons what you're looking for out of that unit?
Right.
He said, no. And he goes, actually, I've done my research. This is the unit I want. He goes, I'm telling you, it's not worth the money. Blah, 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 blah. And Ara said, well, leave me an estimate of the unit you think I could get. He called the next company, told him what he wanted. They installed it.
Crazy.
And this happens all the time.
It does indeed. Yeah. And we're
See,
all
the salesman
guilty.
showed us his solutions and then asked us what we wanted. That's what I do an orientation, and I go over that at a particular slide. The salesperson didn't involve us in the decision making. He picked out what he wanted instead of asking us what our opinions were.
Yep. Exactly. A lesson for everybody out there. Yeah, that's good stuff, man. When you do acquire a new company, do you reap? Well, what's the most valuable asset to you when you're looking at acquiring somebody new or an existing company? Excuse me.
The biggest thing I look at is how many calls are they generating a day. I mean, if a guy's spending 20% in marketing, then and I bought a company that was spending 22% in marketing.
That's a lot.
And the goal of that business was to get them under 10%. So we got them under 10% with more revenue and went from 800,000 profit to 2.3 the next year. But what I love to find is somebody that's spending 0.5%. We've been around 30 years. We got stickers everywhere. We've got a good word of mouth. We've got a great Google with a lot of great reviews. We don't even have to market. I love those companies. They're like, I don't even have to do anything. The phone rings all day. I can't even keep up. And the one thing that I love the most about businesses like that is they go, I can't find enough good guys. There's, these damn millennials out there. They're no good. And I'm like,
Right.
let's go.
Performance.
Because I'll find all the technicians to get those jobs because they think it's a human labor problem to find great people. But they've got more work than they can handle. Those are the best companies.
Yeah, because you pour some marketing on them and, man, they just explode, right?
You can pour the marketing, but the first thing is find great technicians that are great at their KPIs, that have a stake in the outcome. They might be running 30 calls a day with 4 technicians. That's around 7 to 8 jobs per technician.
Right.
How's the guy supposed to optimize the relationship, getting in and out of 7, 8 calls with drive time? That's impossible. So we just give them the right amount of calls, let them take their time, get to know the clients, give them options. And all of a sudden you've got a very, very great business on your hands. Because these people don't answer the phone nights because they're like, I'm already happy as is. I'm making enough money. Like, I didn't sign up to work nights and weekends. Yes, you did. What? You didn't sign up to work nights. You signed up to fix things when they break.
Right.
That's called home service.
Right.
So whatever you tell yourself, if you tell yourself something, it's true. No matter what. If you tell yourself it's a bad economy, it's a bad economy. You're going to suffer. If you tell yourself I'm going to win no matter what, there's nothing that's going to get in front of me that I can't handle. I'm waking up and I'm going to make the best out of this. I'm going to turn lemons into lemonade. Guess what? Then it's going to be true.
Yep.
But if you're a victim, good luck. This world that we live in, capitalism, survival of the fittest, Darwinism, it wasn't cut out for losers and wimps and people that just, they say it's easy for you to say. Oh, it must be easy for him. Guess what? I've ran 10 calls in a day. I've walked out of movie theaters to go jump on a call. I've showed up with flowers to a person that gave me a 1-star review. Yeah. And I've apologized profusely. I've had people walk out. I've had people lie, cheat, and steal. I've had people flip trucks, not 1, not 2, not 5, but way more than that. I've had a guy get in a gunfight in Texas or in Oklahoma and die.
Whoa.
I mean, I've had a guy get hit in the face with fireworks, bump his head, and pass away. That's the shitty. He left 2 beautiful kids on the. We raised a lot of money, but that's the hardest thing about business. So if you think it's easy for me to say, if you think I was born with a golden spoon, I didn't have a whole lot growing up. I wasn't broke. I'm not complaining, but I'll just say when people have this mentality of, oh, you don't understand, it's tax season, it's Christmas, or I don't have guys that'll work like yours. You're the problem.
Right.
You're the exact issue we have.
Right.
Is you won't, who gets fired when someone doesn't, if someone never makes the playoffs for 10 years, who do they fire? Do they fire the quarterback?
Coach.
Oh, they fire the coach.
Yep.
I get pretty passionate.
No, that's good, man. You manifest what you think, right? Whatever you're concentrating on, that becomes your reality. That's going to be the world you're living in. And even if somebody was born with the silver spoon, I don't know. Last I looked, life beats the shit out of you sometimes. And like you just gave all those examples, it's how you deal with them, man. You gotta go with the flow.
Let me just say this: generational wealth, right? So you become a billionaire. The second generation does pretty good. The chance of the third generation ending up with any amount of money is less than 15%.
Yeah.
Unless you're like Vanderbilt's, with like they were worth 280 billion. It's not very common these days. So people say, what about all the people? Tax the rich, tax the rich. Wait a minute. You mean the people giving jobs? You want to tax? First of all, when you add up a company with 1,000 people of who's paying taxes, you raise their taxes to that individual. They're going to lay off a lot of people. Now they're dependent on the system. Now you're sucking the money out of the system versus you had taxpayers paying in. If you looked at it from this perspective of all the people paying into that to help, I do believe there's people that need unemployment. Shoot, my mom had to go to the church to get us a good Christmas. She didn't have enough money to buy us presents. Right. She felt bad. So she went to the church. I got a Bible. I got a couple nice gifts. And I understood my mom's struggling right now. And I understood that because it was tough for me. I'm not going to cry. But, there is this bottom for people that they need a safety net. It's just when everybody's taking advantage of it and you get an EBT card or whatever they're called to just go in and scan and you get a $500 a week, half the people are trading those for dollars. They'll trade a $500 card for $200 and go buy whatever they want. And I'm not saying listen, the system is not easy to go through, but it's the best system we have.
That's all we got.
It's the best system in the world. And the people that don't understand that, they're selfish. And if you like another country so much, then go move to another country. If it's so much better in Belgium or the Netherlands or Finland, then get the hell out of here. Quit complaining.
I like it. I'm trying to think of this.
I'm on a soapbox today.
I'm trying to think of this book from Alan Watts, philosopher. Oh man, it's probably not going to come to me.
I can tell you what it is.
About the wisdom of insecurity. That's the title. Now it's in philosophy, but it's along this mindset of, you got to go with the flow, man, and he or she that learns to go with what is, that's how you succeed. If you're stuck in this mindset of what it should be, then you're in big trouble.
Well, you're a victim. And, here's the thing. I love watching the best of the best. Morgan Freeman was on an interview probably a decade ago with Don Lemon or whatever. And he goes, well, and this isn't politics at all. He just said, you look at the Native Americans and there's a reason there's so much depression. Because they're enabled, but these are capable people of going out and making it on their own. Yes, so it's not right what happened. And call it reparations, call it whatever you want, but look at the people that are succeeding. They're billionaires in the native tribes, and they help their people out, and I appreciate that. But enablement and just thinking that you deserve something. When somebody wants a raise from me, all they need to do is walk up and say, "Hey, Tommy, let me ask you, what's important to you in my role? What milestones do I need to hit? How can we work together to make sure you feel good about giving me whatever wage this is? How is it a win-win? Because I'll tell you, I will work hard to give you whatever you tell me that helps you win. And if somebody tells me that, I don't care how much money they make. Because if I'm making $1 million and they're making $1 million, who cares? I'm happy. But if they're like, listen, the way I see this is I deserve more, and here's what I want. I was watching Simon Sinek talk about this, of just having a conversation and say, how do we do a win-win?
Right.
What are some things we could work together to make sure that these are my goals, these are my wants? Can you tell me what needs to happen in order for me to receive these? It's not easy. I don't know what to tell the cleaning lady.
Right.
Well, listen, if you scrub a little harder, look, there's certain roles that are just hard to do that with. But a lot of the performance pay, it's easy to do that with. They say, listen, you do this, 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 and this, and I'll help you get there. You can make – just don't put your mind in a cage. If you look at the people that you surround yourself with, the closest 5 people to you, if you don't get inspired, it's called a cage. It's not a circle.
Right.
And they'll hold you down.
Right. No, there's definitely
they don't realize this, but they hate your success.
Yeah, they do. Absolutely. Yeah. Life might have dealt your people, your family, yourself a raw deal, right? But there are people in your position who were able to dig out of it. So
you know what? I have all my fingers. I have my health. I can still run. Tell this to Steve Jobs on his deathbed. He said, if you're not taking nutrients as your vitamins, if you're not bringing in the right food for your body, you're going to be taking medication as your food. If you're not taking your food as medication, you're going to be taking medication as your food.
Right.
And a lot of people, we live in the United States of America. If you're a victim here, we've got a lot of issues.
Yeah.
I don't think people take into consideration how great we have it here. They're so busy worrying about things they can't control. They don't have time to worry about the things they can't control. And that's a really tough way to live.
There are definitely a lot of places in the world I would not want to have been born in. That's for shit sure. So
we're all lucky.
Yeah.
We're all lucky.
Yeah.
Lucky to be alive. The chance of us being born is a crazy number.
Right.
And I'm very fortunate. I feel very fortunate all the time.
And to be human. I hear, what's his name? Big social media guy. Jeez.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah, I'm sorry. He owns the big media marketing company. Damn.
Chris Branson or ClickFunnels. What is that?
Anyway, he talks about, what you just said. What are the odds of being a human being on planet Earth and being born in the USA? It's so even if you're at the lower economic level of that, that's still higher than half of the earth. So, is it tough? It could be tough, but find a way, find a way to start a side hustle, find a way.
Well, write down what you want. Write it on a whiteboard on the top right. Draw a line down and say, what would my life need to look like to get here? If I want a 6-pack and to be at 4% body fat, and I write that down here, and I write down 6 months, let's give myself realistic goals. What would my diet need to look like? How much would I need to exercise? How much water could I drink? Probably not. What does this need to look like to get what I want, the body I want, the health I want? And the same thing exists in business.
Yep.
If I want to be like this business, and guess what's so nice about it? You go visit a business. You want to get to 100 million, go visit a business 100 million. A lot of businesses are willing to share with you and pay it forward.
Right.
And then you know exactly what it needs to look like. Success leaves clues. There's not very many original thoughts out there.
Right.
So if you want this body, if you want this business, if you want to become a better father, mother, better sibling, whatever it is, there's answers out there. The problem is you're too busy putting out fires. You don't have time to look for these answers and study and learn and read and go to conferences and then implement. And I think that's one of the biggest issues I've seen with a lot of people is you go, listen, I just don't get it. The answer is right in front of you. In the book, Acres of Diamonds, it's an amazing book. The answer is usually right in front of us.
Yeah.
And, this guy, he goes out to the back of his house. His wife kicks him out. She's sweeping. This is in the late 1800s. And he goes in the backyard and he reaches down into the river and he grabs a big trout. And he's got this big trout and he goes, I wonder what this would be worth. So this guy says something along the lines of, I'll give you 5 cents for it. And all of a sudden he creates these nets in his river, doesn't get a lot of trout. But then he's talking to a guy that's an excellent fisherman. And he goes, have you ever heard of breeding trout? And he goes, what do you mean you could breed the fish? So he creates this huge pond, if you will. And he learns how to feed the fish. And every 3 years he sells like 10 tons of fish and becomes one of the richest fishermen of all time that sells this fish to the right sources. Because he walked out into his backyard, he found gold. It was in the form of a trout.
Right.
And sometimes the easiest things are right in front of us, but we're too busy looking sideways or getting distracted or ADD and looking at the next shiny object to just take advantage.
Yeah. Yeah. We get addicted to our emotional state. So once again, you manifest what you're focusing on. And I like what you said, as you can see, I've orbited the sun a few times. In our day, there was information interviews, right? So like you said, if you want to be $100 million company, hey, there's a guy out there or a woman out there running $100 million company that is willing to spend the time. I mean, look at you. You're right here on the podcast, sharing your time and expertise with, ourselves and the audience. So those people are out there. You might have to work twice as hard as the person next to you, who had more, but it's doable. So Tommy, you're awesome. I've taken a lot of your time. I'm going to do like you. I started copying your ending. So, how you close out the show, and what would you like to say to the audience out there? Any final tips or pointers or?
Yeah, well, I think you'll enjoy the first 2 books. ElevateAndWin.com is the Elevate book. Here's a good book by a really smart guy called 100 Million Offers, Alex Hormozi. How to make offers so good people feel stupid saying no. And, business is not for the faint at heart. What I could tell you right now is if you get good at the little things, you start focusing, you understand where your time's going. I tell most people, break out an old-fashioned calendar and start writing down what goes on in your day and being very meticulous. And then take out a highlighter and highlight all the things that you could have delegated. And I'm very big into delegation. And, I'm going to go home. I'm going to take a picture of the lady that cleans our house. She works 40 hours a week. I'm going to get a picture of the guy that mows the lawn. I'm going to get a picture of the pool guy, the dog walker. I'm going to put them into a video. And I just want to say, unless I deeply, deeply, deeply enjoy doing this and I listened to a book while I was doing it, I'm not too good for that stuff. Obviously, I mowed lawns for a decade. I'm not too good to clean. I've cleaned always my own house. But right now, I'm taking on bigger things, more important decisions, looking out for more people. So understanding the steps of delegation, how much your time's worth, prioritization, these things matter. And readers are leaders. So read more. And listen, just ask. There's one book I want everybody to read, and it's a little book. It's so easy, but it's called Go for No. Go for No. I give it to every one of my new technicians, and it'll change your mindset. And if you guys got any questions or need anything at all, just reach out. I'm on Facebook. I'm on most social media, official Tommy Mello on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. But I'm here to help. I've already made it. I'm happy with what I do. I make all my money from my home service business. I'm not out here. The book is not a money grab. The book is to share some of the things I've experienced. I'll lose money on the book. I lose money on every time I do a seminar. So I'm here because I've got a lot of friends. And if I help you get what you want, I know I'll receive back the same in return. So I appreciate being on here.
Hey, you're awesome, Tommy. Thanks a million. And yes, people go out and buy the books. Elevate Home Service Millionaire, and check out his podcast, Home Service Expert. Tommy, you're awesome. Thank you, sir.